Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 15th, 2023 meeting of Menlo Park's Environmental Quality Commission.
You can sit back here if you want. Yeah.
All right, so tonight's meeting will be both a hybrid meeting, having both an in-person component and a virtual component. And we'll have several occasions during the meeting to call for public comment to see if there are comments for items, either individual agenda items as they come up, or at this time, we can also call for the public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Sustainability Manager Lucky, would you be able to announce the call for comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair Cabot. So at this time, if there are any members of the public who are in attendance, and we do have one member of the public here in the room, or any attendees that are online, you can use the raise hand feature next to your name, and I'll be able to unmute you. This is a call for public comment on items not listed on the agenda, and you have up to 3 minutes to address the commission. With that, I do have one hand raised. And give me a second to get my screen.
And Ms. Lucky, do we need to, excuse me, I jumped into the comments, but I may have skipped over roll call.
Yes. Well, we can take the public comment and then maybe do roll call after.
All right. Thank you.
All right. And let's see. Okay, so the first public comment is from Pamela Jones.
Good evening. Good evening, Pam Jones, resident of Menlo Park, Bellhaven neighborhood. I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciated you being at the meeting, the Thursday night meeting on the EJ, and taking the opportunity to see our community in action, and the passion that we have, and that it's been so helpful, the work that you have been doing, and we will be working with you more frequently. So again, I just wanted to thank you for that. It's very important to the community.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Jones.
Thank you. And just checking again, if there's anybody that would like to make comment on an item that is not on the agenda, you can use the raised hand feature that's next to your name or at the bottom of your screen. If you're on a landline, you can dial *9. We're good. Okay. Thank you so much, Chair Cabot. We can proceed with the meeting.
All right, and I think I had accidentally skipped roll call, so maybe we can back up for that.
Sure.
So this would be roll call for the February 15th, 2023 EQC meeting.
Great. So I'll take roll call. If you can just verbally state whether you're present, then we can mark you down. So Commissioner Elkins?
Present.
Commissioner Evans?
Here.
Chair Cabot?
Here.
Vice Chair Headley?
Present.
Commissioner Lynn?
Present.
Commissioner McKenna?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Thank you, Chair Cabot. You may continue with the meeting.
All right, thank you very much. And so that brings us to item D1 of regular business, the approval of the January 18th, 2023 Environmental Quality Commission and regular meeting minutes. They're attached to your agenda. And so hopefully commissioners have had a chance to look through the minutes. And do I hear a motion for approval? See a motion from Vice Chair Headley and a second.
I second.
All right, and a second from Commissioner Elkins. Any discussion of the minutes before we vote? All right, and seeing none, Sustainability Manager Lucky, could you call for the vote?
Oh, I think we just need to call public
Oh.
comments.
Thank you.
Sorry, we're all getting the hang of this hybrid virtual meeting. So if there's any members of the public who are in attendance virtually or in the room, if you'd like to make a public comment on the approval of the January 18th Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes, you can use the raise hand feature. I'll be able to unmute you so you can speak up to 3 minutes. With that, I don't see anyone. All right, there is no public comment, and we can continue on with the motion, which is motion by Headley, seconded by Elkins to approve the January 18th, 2023 minutes. I'll take roll call. You could say yes or no. Vice Chair Headley,
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Elkins,
Yes.
Chair Cabot,
Yes.
and Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
and Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lucky. So that brings us to regular business item D2, which is review and discuss proposed changes to garage and side and rear yard rules in the zoning rules that would facilitate electrification for existing single-family homes. And so what we'll have is a staff presentation about this, and then a chance for brief clarifying questions from commissioners trying to clarify what they heard, followed by public comment, and then commission detailed discussion and a motion. So does staff have a presentation?
Yes, Chair Cabot, and so I have the presentation. I'm just working to share my screen here, so bear with me one moment while I get the proper screen shared. Okay. Is everyone able to see this? Wonderful. I'm getting the thumbs up. Thank you. So I'm Management Analyst Ori Paz with the Sustainability Division, here to walk through some of these recommended garage and setback rule changes that are intended to help existing single-family homes to electrify. So, okay. So, I'm going too quickly. So this evening, we'll provide a little bit of background about this effort and its roots in our REACH code effort from 2021, why we're evaluating setback and garage rule changes, an overview of the recommended changes, and a discussion of the process and next steps. And then there'll be an opportunity for discussion and questions. So moving forward, and this is a great illustration from Palo Alto Utilities that does a nice job of visually overviewing what electrification means. So it's the replacement of natural gas burning appliances with electric alternatives. This evening, we'll be focusing primarily on the garage area. So you can see there's a blue box bounding the garage, and then some of the equipment that may be located in the garage, such as a heat pump water heater, electric vehicle charging, and the electric panel. We'll also be discussing the side yard setback or required yards. And so you can see another blue box bounding that area on the left side of the illustration. And so battery storage and some of the compressors, condensers, things related to heat pump, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning equipment in that area. But at a very basic level, electrification means the replacement of natural gas equipment with electric alternatives. And so one of the reasons why we're looking to do that is in part to advance our climate action plan, which has a goal in climate action plan goal number 1 to electrify 95% of existing buildings. And that's really to help reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from using that natural gas and also improve the air quality and address the worst effects of climate change. So the appliances that would be replaced include water heaters. Maybe I will go back actually to this illustration. So the water heaters and the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning equipment, those are two of the biggest items that were identified as part of the REACH code effort in 2021 as needing some additional help in order for existing buildings to electrify. Particularly with the heat pump water heaters, the equipment is able to heat the water, but it does take a little bit longer. And so the equipment is typically upsized from the natural gas equivalent. And so you would see where someone may have a 30-gallon heat pump or a 30-gallon water heater that uses natural gas. They may have a 50-gallon or larger heat pump water heater, and that's so that they could have more hot water when they need it. And one of the effects of that is that the equipment does not fit in the existing location. So if you have a small closet or something like that, the heat pump cannot be replaced in the same location as the existing hot water heater. And so looking to the garage or enclosures in the setbacks is important to help facilitate or make it easier for folks who are living in existing homes to replace the equipment with electric options. The best place to put a heat pump is inside the home where you have conditioned or existing warm air. And that the next best place is the garage. And then after that, we've heard that an enclosure that's outside that protects the equipment from weather is a good alternative. But again, it's all about moving the temperature of the air. And so if it's inside, that's the best. And so one of the things that we've done is we've met with our building decarbonization subcommittee to discuss some of these rules. We've also worked with our planning and transportation division staff to understand the implications and some of the considerations around parking and setback encroachments. And so that's a bit of the background on this effort. Part of why we're looking at garage rule changes is because currently the limitations on garages that are housed in the zoning ordinance are restrictive as to what can be placed within the required parking area. So for single family homes, 2 off-street parking spaces or on-site parking spaces are required. Minimum 1 of those needs to be covered. And the dimensions for those are 10 feet by 20 feet. And that needs to be a clear space. So it needs to be clear for parking. You can't have intrusions or obstructions in that area. With respect to the side and rear yards or required yards or setbacks, those are all synonymous terms for it. In zoning, it's known as a setback. And so every property has this required space or setback that a building needs to be set back from the property line. And that's determined by the zoning for the property. Currently, air conditioning condensers are allowed, and compression units would be allowed as well, provided they meet the noise ordinance. But enclosures that would protect, say, a heat pump water heater are not allowed. And so we're looking at these 2 options as possible rule changes to create some flexibility for these existing single-family homes so that the electrification equipment could be located either within the garage or within the required yard spaces. And this we're anticipating would be helpful for a possible effort for REACH Codes 2.0 because it would allow for flexibility for homeowners to have somewhere to put the equipment if it were to be required in the future. And so for those reasons, we're recommending modifying these rules for existing single-family homes to create that flexibility. So this is an overview of the staff recommendation. You can see in this table that there's the current rules, our proposed rule change, and a high-level overview of the effect of the change. So starting with the garage change, the current rules are that only cars are allowed in the 10-foot by 20-foot required garage clear area. The proposed rule change is that we would create an exemption to allow electrification equipment in the garage, provided either a 9x18 space is preserved for parking, or that could be reduced to 9x17 if there's an 18-foot long space on the driveway or elsewhere on site. And this has the effect of preserving an area for parking on site, while also allowing heat pumps, EV chargers, batteries, other electrification equipment to be located within the garage, where currently, that's not an option. And this would be for existing single-family homes. And then with respect to the setbacks, currently, again, the compressor units or condensers are allowed within the setbacks, provided they meet the noise ordinance limits. And this proposed rule change would allow for enclosures that are 3 foot by 3 foot by the height of the first floor plate for electrification equipment. And that really is focused on the protection of the heat pump, water heaters, and other equipment that may need to be located outside if there's not space in the garage or space within the home for that equipment. So we have a few diagrams that illustrate the proposed rule changes. So again, you can see here, this is for a garage. The green area represents the area where electrification equipment could be located. And then the parking preserved space. So it's a 9x18 space that's preserved within the garage for parking. And that could be reduced to 9x17 if there's an 18-foot space on the driveway or elsewhere on site. And we anticipate this being important for heat pump water heaters that are around 50 gallons or larger. 50 to 80 gallon equipment should fit within a 3-foot space at the back of the garage. So anticipating that being helpful for folks looking to electrify their water heating. It would also work for the furnace equipment that would be replaced by central heat pumps for space conditioning. And then there's new rules in the current building code around batteries, and then the fire district also has some rules about batteries, but that should be enough space for a battery for the home. So the larger batteries that are often paired with solar installations, as well as the bollards to protect them. As we look at the setback proposed rule change, it would create, again, it's a 3-foot by 3-foot enclosure that would be allowed to be placed within the required side or rear setback. So you can see here in this diagram, there's the green area in the side and rear of the setbacks. And again, the setbacks vary by zoning district, but the idea would be for existing single-family homes that the equipment could be located in the side and rear setback if needed for electrification equipment, provided it meets the noise ordinance limitations. And again, those are 50 decibels at the residential property line during nighttime hours, which I believe is 10 to 8 a.m. I can double check that. We also have our planning manager, Kyle Prada from the planning division, who may be able to confirm that. And then 60 decibels is the limit during the daytime hours. So we can move forward to talk about the process and next steps. So to change rules related to garage and required yards, that's a change to the zoning ordinance. So it's a zoning ordinance amendment, and that will require planning commission recommendation to the city council for action. In this kind of distribution of responsibility, the EQC is an advisory body to the city council on the climate action plan. And as this is related to climate action plan goal number 1, to electrify 95% of the existing building stock. The EQC may want to consider providing advice on the staff recommendation to the city council. And then the advice that's provided in this meeting this evening would also be forwarded to the planning commission when they review the specific language related to these rule changes. And so we're looking to bring the proposed rule changes to the planning commission in this spring, and then would take it to the first city council and hopefully second city council meetings, because 2 readings are required for a zoning ordinance amendment, but hoping to have all of that wrapped up by this spring. So I can hand it back to you, Chair Cabot, and then if there's clarifying questions, we can answer any of those.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Paz. And so to my fellow commissioners, do you have any clarifying questions about the information provided to better understand it? And yes, I see Commissioner Evans.
Thank you. Thank you, Ori, for the helpful presentation. For the noise, the 50-60 decibel piece, can you clarify, is that, are those new numbers that are just specific to heat pump equipment, or are those numbers that are used for all sorts of side equipment like air conditioners, current air conditioners that folks already have?
Yeah, that is a good clarifying question. The noise limitations are for everything. So it's all existing equipment, anything new. And it applies to, as you mentioned, air conditioners, also pool pump equipment, any noise that would travel across a property line for single family homes. And they're existing. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And Commissioner Elkins.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Paz, for the presentation. I believe this is a clarifying question. I'm wondering what the emergency access regulations are in terms of how much space you have between the equipment and the fence or the property line.
Yes, so the egress requirements are emergency access requirements, and that's a good question. And I believe it was written on one of the slides, but I may have forgotten to mention that is a requirement that will still apply for the enclosures. That it needs to meet the building and fire review requirements. For single family homes, I believe, and I will need to go back to confirm with our building official, but it varies depending on the number of dwellings. So if you have multiple dwellings, the space that's needed to get around something increases. And I think in this, where we're only looking at single family homes, the maximum number of units that you would see would be 2. So a single family home and perhaps an accessory dwelling unit. So I believe it's less than 36 inches, but it may be between 20 and 36. But we can get back to you with the specifics when we talk with the building official.
Okay. It's not more than 36 inches.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then maybe one other clarification on that is that if you need to have an egress route. And so if you can maintain an egress route and have an enclosure, you can do both, as long as you can do both, if that makes sense. And maybe I can go back to the diagram to clear that up. So if are you able to see my cursor?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay. So if, let's say you have equipment here, and then you have a bedroom with an egress window here. So you could put the equipment here, but if this is the primary path of egress, you may want to put the equipment over here. But if you, so you could do both as long as there is a clear route, and the emergency egress takes priority. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, let me just clarify again. So if, let's say you didn't have 36 inches on this left-hand side and you had a bedroom window over there, it wouldn't be good enough to be able to go around the house and out on the other side.
It potentially, it could be okay, but you would need to confirm it with the building division as part of the building permit review, and then also the fire protection district.
Okay.
But it's plausible that that could be okay.
Okay. And it's always okay if the equipment is put in the front yard. It's just nobody wants to do that. That's why that's not being talked about.
It's actually never okay. It's that, so
Never okay. Okay.
yeah. So what we're looking at is, because right now you can have your equipment in your side or rear setback, and so we're looking at a continuation of that, with a specific allowance for these enclosures, also only in the side or rear.
I
Okay,
think,
so it's never okay to put even if you thought it was ugly, but you didn't care, you couldn't put it in the front yard.
Correct.
I have another question, but if you wanted to go ahead, Angela, or if you wanted to add.
no,
on
no,
to
I
that,
just,
or-
I had a question. I think EV chargers though are allowed in the front, right? I mean, I know that's not really.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
okay.
thought we were
Yeah,
talking
no, no,
about
we are,
specifically
but
the-
yeah, but okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay. This, I hope, is also a clarifying question. You talked about how we can put the equipment out in the yard if there's no room for it in the house. Is that something that is determined by the city or the inspector, or is the homeowner able to say, I don't want to put it in my house, or I don't want to put it in my garage, I have, a man cave in there or something, or I want to put it on this side? Is that still going to be allowed? Up to the homeowner to decide between these places?
Yes, yeah. The way that the language is proposed is that it's not going to be kind of cascading. It'll create the flexibility for the homeowner to decide where they want
Even though
to.
technically there would be room in the garage, they won't be forced to put it there.
Correct, yeah. Or like they wouldn't be forced to put it in like inside the home. Basically what this is doing is it's creating an avenue for them to electrify, to use space that's not within the home, even though what we're hearing from the technical experts is that's the best place, most efficient place to have your heat pump, water heater.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much for clearing up those clarifying questions. And so at this point, Ms. Lucky, if you're able to call for public comment.
Thank you, Chair Cabot. Commissioner Schmidt does have a clarifying question.
Just a really quick one, you said this was for existing builds only, it doesn't cover new build?
That's correct.
Yeah, and is it based on some standards that are in new build? Is this
So-
like the new standard that we're imposing or we're asking to impose?
So the new construction there are limitations, and maybe I can turn it to Sustainability Manager Lucky to speak to the reach codes for new construction that require all electric. But these rule changes would be for existing single family homes that don't have the opportunity during design to account for locating electrification equipment.
Yeah, for new buildings, we've had that in place for about 2 years. We haven't heard any kind of feedback that that kind of exception is needed. So they're able to kind of, because it's a new building, they're able to plan appropriately the space and
Got it.
make it work. And again, it's the most efficient place to have it inside the condition area.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you very much. And so if we can check to see if there are public comments on this item.
Thank you, Chair Cabot. So at this time, we are taking public comment on this agenda item that proposes to change garage space and side yard space rules to allow electrification equipment up to a certain extent. And if you are a virtual attendee, you can use the raised hand feature. It's at the bottom of the screen, or if you can find your name, it's next to there and I'll be able to unmute you. If you're in the audience, you definitely can also make public comment. We just ask you to fill out a card. You don't have to do it right now, but just at the end of the meeting, that would be great. So we just can capture your name accurately. So with that, I'll take the public comment that we have in the room, and then I'll go to the virtual attendees. So we've got one public comment in the room, and if you can just state your name, you can come sit right.
Into the camera view.
Well, you can just, roll up here. We'll be able to see you. Once you start talking, it'll go.
Good evening. My name is Jayant Day. Thank you for letting me come into this meeting. This was a very good presentation. I live in Belhaven for the last 17 years, I think, or 18, 17 years. And you know, it's the housing complex that was built circa 2007. There was all solar building, and there was energy efficient, you know, in that era. We are looking to get a unit that actually serves both as a water heater as well as a house heater that's run by one heat pump, which, you know, requires, you know, a slightly larger. And it's actually by a company called Harvest Thermal, which is a Bay Area company. It requires the water tank to be slightly more upsized because it also acts as a thermal battery. That's instead of going from 50 to 80, it may go from, like, you know, to 130 or something like that, or 110, I forget. So this is, you know, built in that era. All the houses are built to have 2 enclosed garages and parking in the driveway for 2 cars, and the 2 enclosed garages are exactly that size. 20 by 20, or maybe somewhere 21 by 20. So we have applied for to the city to get permission to do the installations. So we really appreciate this. You know, speaking for my wife and I, and you know, in particular, you know, if there's a request that we can make, we would love to see our permission go through the city by, you know, they're in process. Sooner than later, because in Q1, by March 30th, I think there's some additional rebates that are available to do the work. Thank you.
Okay, and our next public speaker is Diane Bailey. You can address the commission. Bailey.
Good. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Diane Bailey. I'm with a local nonprofit community group called Menlo Spark. And I wanted to thank you very much for taking up this complicated issue. It's not easy work, but it's incredibly important. And I just wanted to share a couple of stories and the perspective of some folks in the community who have struggled with electrification projects because of complicated permitting that's a little bit out of their control, because they're benefiting from subsidized electrification programs. I wanted to encourage additional steps to streamline the permitting process and make things even easier for electrification. So in addition to the great things that we heard today, please continue looking into ways to make things simpler and faster. We're hearing from a number of contractors that the permitting requirements are incredibly challenging due to many steps and complicated requirements and detailed engineering plans for relatively simple things like water heaters and HVAC systems. And some of these seem unnecessary. I just wanted to highlight a few. One example is requiring outdoor outlets for HVAC equipment. That seems like an outdated measure and it adds costs to projects. And so I hope that can be examined. And then a couple of folks in Belhaven who have been part of home upgrade programs have had their projects placed on hold, and that's kind of put them in difficult predicaments. And I wanted to share some of those to help folks understand kind of the impact to homeowners of some of these requirements. In one instance, one family was waiting on a mini split heating and cooling system for about 6 months. And they were promised the unit in July, and that was fine. But then when the cooler months started rolling in, their wall furnace was no longer functioning and they were really freezing. And one of the occupants of the home is quite elderly, and it put them in a difficult position. We interfaced with the contractor a couple of times. They explained that that was out of their hands because it was in permitting. I think that might have been an exaggeration. I'm not sure that they put the permit in 6 months in advance, but that contractor had reported extremely difficult permitting circumstances and didn't want to move forward with any home upgrades in Belhaven until they could kind of get their permits certified, even though this seemed like an emergency situation. And when asked at the permitting desk for an emergency clearance to go ahead and install the mini split for heating for an elderly occupant, the answer was no, and I was surprised by that. In another instance, a homeowner is waiting 3.5 months for a dryer, and the contractor had removed the old dryer, which was functional, and she has her new dryer sitting in the garage waiting for a new 240 outlet. And the permitting for a 240 outlet probably shouldn't take 3.5 months. But apparently a lot of plans and steps were asked for, the dimensions of the new dryer versus the old. And it became quite complicated. And so she's still waiting to do her laundry at home. And these are very well-intentioned programs. And I think the contractors are trying hard, but they're finding the permitting a little bit unwieldy. And I do want to acknowledge that when going to the permitting counter for help, that staff have been extremely helpful and courteous. But I wonder if there could be systemic changes. And there's one in particular that I've heard from one of you, actually from a commissioner, would be to automate the permits, to provide auto permits and have them certified upon inspection. And I won't go into any further detail. I'll just say I think that would cut a lot of the red tape and help folks get their appliances, much needed appliances, installed in a timely way. And the last thing I want to note is that I'm also told that Palo Alto is now offering automatic permits for water heaters. So that could be one example to look at. Thanks again for your work on this. This is really important work to help electrify Menlo Park. And I hope that we can see streamlining in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bailey, for those stories of struggles with permitting. You know, we know it's not intentional on staff's part to create any obstacles, but it does make sense that we look at the ways we can streamline things to bring the information needs down to what is really required in order for a safe installation. And so that's kind of a bigger effort beyond tonight's agenda item, which is really focused in on the potential for zoning code changes that would create the permissible space to do the electrification. But I agree, we also, as a body, need to keep working with staff on exploring how might processes change for building permits that would enable those to be able to go more smoothly. Okay, and so now at this point, I'd like to open it up for discussion among commissioners headed towards a motion to provide to staff. So I see Vice Chair Headley.
Thank you, Chair Cabot. Let's see, I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. The 3 foot by 3 foot enclosure, As I think about the two heat pumps outside of my house, one for water and one for space heating, a 3-foot by 3-foot enclosure would not be enough to enclose both of those units. So I'm wondering if I'm understanding that correctly. Or is it like 3 foot for each unit?
Yeah, so the specific language has not been finalized.
Okay.
But yeah, when we were looking at individual pieces of equipment. So I think that's a good point to raise as to how many enclosures would be allowed. I think we can definitely regroup to look at that to understand the total area needed for full electrification.
Thank you. I had another question. I'm thinking of one person I know who actually has a heat pump in the front of their house, and it has an enclosure around it. And I'm wondering if we should make a carve out as part of this to allow for something like that if it was necessary.
All right. So I have one comment, Mr. Paz. In the presentation, sometimes it becomes a little bit confusing because there are heat pumps for space heating and cooling. And then there's a similarly named thing called a heat pump water heater. And the water heater uses a heat pump to heat the water. But there was one slide where it said something about heat pumps are best located inside. And I think what it's getting at is that you wouldn't put the outdoor compressor of a space heating heat pump inside. It wouldn't do any good. It'd just be circulating the same energy around the house. So those compressor units always need to be outdoors. My opinion, having installed a number of heat pump water heaters, is that they work great in partially conditioned or sheltered spaces like enclosed garages and in basements. And so they work well there. They also can work quite well. The 240 volt type can work quite well in one of those outdoor enclosures, those metal enclosures, which are not really semi-conditioned space. They're vented just to the outdoors. So there can be those different locations, but I think we'll have to be careful in these presentations to the other bodies not to confuse space heating heat pumps with the water heating heat pumps. But I'm glad your requirements and advice on the zoning adjustments is, covering both of the situations. So you're covering both. I just want to make sure we keep the naming of them organized so that people don't get too confused. All right, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Evans.
Thank you. Well, first, I wanted to thank staff for working so hard. I understand that you've been meeting with building and maybe the planning departments to negotiate and discuss some of these things to try to make these rules better to enable electrification. So it's really great to be working with a team where we're all on the same page and trying to move in the same direction. Two things. The first one is, Ori, I don't know if you're able to share your screen and go back to the slide that talks about the 9x17 in the garage, but as long as you have a space outside. And so this one feels, yeah, there you go. Oh, the one before that, yeah. Okay, so this one feels, so this is a great improvement, obviously, than requiring the 10x20. But as I think we've talked about before, I wonder if there's any way, and I welcome input from folks from the building and transportation and planning departments, to allow 9x17 in the garage. even if you don't have that extra space somewhere else on the site, because I'd like to allow enough flexibility for folks to put their water heater tank in their garage and have that 3 feet by 3 feet at a minimum that they need, without imposing this requirement that they also have to have this additional space, outside of the garage that they may or may not have. I guess I'm trying to figure out how can we move in the direction of giving, one more foot of flexibility inside the garage for that purpose, because I know that so many folks really do want to put those tanks in their garages. So that's my first question, or I guess discussion with the group. And then my second has to do with the noise pieces. And this is probably a longer conversation, but my understanding in talking to a bunch of folks who are familiar with a lot of these different pieces of electric equipment is that the 50 decibels at night and the 60 decibels during the day would be prohibitively restrictive for many of the machines that are on the market. Maybe not even the minority of share of machines that are on the market. And so I feel like we will likely have to open the discussion to how can we tweak those for electrification equipment so that that doesn't become a hindrance. And I realize that people in the community are really sensitive to noise. And so that's probably a long conversation, but I think it's one that we're going to need to have. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. And so I actually have a couple of thoughts on the items you've raised. I'll take them in reverse. On the issue of the sound requirements, I do think that electrification equipment has the same sound profile day and night. The heat pump produces the same noise regardless of the time of day. And the newer inverter driven machines are a nice gentle piece of equipment. These modern machines, they're a gentle piece of equipment to live next door to because they don't bang on and bang off like the air conditioner yard cubes that are a few years old tend to do. They go on gently and then they run for long hours at slightly varying rates of fan throughput, depending on what the house needs. So they're not a high disturbance thing, but they are a long duration sound that occurs at, around the clock as long as it's running. And one of the strategies of running a heat pump in cold weather like we're having right now is to let it run overnight and continue conditioning the house. So it does seem like it may make sense to have an electrification allowance for, say, another sound level, say 60 decibels, regardless of the time. And I'm not even sure how the city goes about enforcing a time varying decibel level. But so anyway, that's my thought on sound levels. Is I do think more, sound allowance may need to be accepted by the community if we are to prevent the worst of climate change. And so we need to be looking at those things. And then this could be a great area for what some council members call for in terms of voluntary programs, where they offer incentives for equipment that was at lower sound levels, and that's the way they address lower sound levels, is to offer an incentive for it. But we adjust our rules to accommodate environment or climate saving equipment in general. And then I'll try to go back to agreeing with Commissioner Evans on the issue of the preserving a 9-foot by 17-foot clear space in the garage, regardless of the condition or distance or area of the driveway next to it. Menlo Park has its parking ordinances in place and they police the streets and ticket cars that are left overnight on the streets. So that is the general pressure and enforcement on the community to be able to have as few cars as is needed and to know where to store them to not get tickets. And so I don't think we have to prescribe exactly the dimensions of what they do in their garage or on their driveway, so long as we still have the ability to ticket people for the bad behavior of leaving a car out overnight on the street. So my thought would be you can simplify the garage rule by making it just a 9 by 17 foot space for cars without having a caveat of depends on whether there's a long enough driveway. And I see Commissioner Evans' hand up.
Never mind. Sorry, I just forgot to lower my hand.
Is there additional commissioner discussion? And I can't really see the hands in the
John,
room.
Commissioner McKenna is
Okay.
raising his hand. Chair
All right,
Kavett.
Yeah, again, thank you, Ori and staff for all the work that you have done on this matter. It's, as it's been said before, it's very important. And we really want to do whatever we can to make things easier for residents to electrify. So I'm fully in agreement with Commissioner Evans and Commissioner Cabot about the 9 foot by 17 foot concept in the garage, giving the homeowner more flexibility to install the equipment in there. I think in many cases, the heat pump water heater is going to be in that 50 gallon plus range. So if we can really loosen this up in a way that makes those most common hot water heaters to be installed, that's great. And then I also agree on the noise comments. Then I just had a thought on the enclosure. The 3 foot by 3 foot does seem a little bit restrictive, as Commissioner Headley mentioned. I'm wondering if, we can say that the enclosure can be maybe not any size, but as long as it doesn't encroach on the egress and it doesn't go any higher than the single level, to me, it would be okay to allow something that's larger, which in some cases may help the noise issue as well. So I think if we can give a little more flexibility on the enclosure that doesn't impair safety, that would be something to consider. Those are my comments.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner McKenna. And you've reminded me also of Mr. Pepe's comment earlier about the Harvest thermal system that is a combined system that does both space heating and water heating, but does so utilizing a larger storage tank. And I think the dimensions on that are very close to needing more than 3 feet. It may be 3 feet and an inch or two. That's one of the problems of this zoning issue, is it comes down sometimes to a real game of inches in terms of getting the right size tank to still fit, and imagining the largest car somebody might buy in the future and want to be their indoor car, as opposed to the one they leave in their driveway under the 2-car allowance. So I'm still struggling with even the 9 by 17 feet. Maybe the thing I struggle with is this idea that the garage has a space dedicated to one use only, and that's car parking, as opposed to saying that a garage needs to be 10 feet by 20 feet and leaving it at that, and not telling people what equipment they can buy and whether it's 4-wheel equipment or something that sits in the corner. I'm a little concerned that we're trying to over prescribe what goes on in garages. Commissioner Evans.
Yeah, I was just going to add with your point about Harvest Thermal, my understanding is that they use the Senko piece of equipment, and that is larger. But it's also much quieter. It's one of the quietest pieces of equipment like this on the market. And so it's also an example of, allowing some more flexibility in sizing could actually help with noise, right? If allowing the flexibility of sizing outside allows more of these Harvest Thermal installations, it's actually much quieter for neighbors. That's it.
Thank you. And then thinking back to Commissioner McKenna's idea about the, possibly over prescribing the dimensions of the enclosure for a side yard heat pump water heater. And by the way, those side yard enclosures are not for space heating compressors. Typically, space heating compressors are outdoor rated pieces of equipment. They're meant to be out in the rain and the snow and the sunshine. They're there for it all. But the heat pump water heaters that are single tank unitary water heaters, like a cylinder with essentially a backwards refrigerator on the in the top part of the cylinder, the heat pump water heaters are not generally outdoor rated equipment. That's why they have that weather enclosure around them that would have a lot of vents to let the cold air out that the heat pump had taken the heat out of to do its water heating. But in allowing that side yard rain shelter, weather shelter for the heat pump water heater, maybe rather than prescribing those dimensions, it makes sense to say not greater than X square feet, where X might be 12 or 15 square feet, something like that, and saying not extending beyond 3 feet from the house. And that may be the way to do it, or to go the other way and say leaving the clear egress space between the fence and the enclosure. And so then that lets the fire district or building department regulations for how wide a space is an allowable egress space between the fence and the enclosure. So I'm basically looking for ways we can work on the rules to try to avoid over prescribing the solutions and try to only address the real envelope of possibility. Any additional commissioner comments? And again, I cannot see hands raised if they're in the room.
No hands are raised in the room.
And Commissioner Evans.
I too have one question that's sort of related, but a little bit of a tangent. But while we're discussing all of this, on the subject of permitting, I mean, to Tom's point, excuse me, Commissioner Cabot's point earlier, there's these zoning ordinances, and then I know we'd like to have a larger conversation about streamlining and process and complexity of process. And then the third one was, I wonder if staff has any updates about hiring more folks in the permitting department. I know that at least historically, it was anticipated that we were going to need a lot more folks to process these and or do inspections, especially as, we know that the number of permits being submitted for this is going to ramp up. And I'm curious if any of those have been filled, if they're still open, sort of what kind of staffing issues are you or are you not dealing with in the permitting department anymore? I don't know if you're privy to that information.
Thanks, Commissioner Evans. So I think it may be a separate kind of discussion with the building decarbonization subcommittee. And I know we've been meeting kind of regularly on this topic, but what I can say is that if all of the application material is submitted and directions are followed. Like if you're changing the location of your water heater to somewhere else, you know, you need a site plan. If all of those things are submitted, right now our permit processing time is 3 days. So if everything is accurate and correct and all the application is filled out completely, that's our current turnaround time. If there's ways to kind of help folks kind of understand what they need to submit, that's what we've been working on as part of our webpage of how to submit a successful building permit for electrification. And again, it's part of our goals this year too, is how can we do outreach to contractors and others on, again, how do you submit a successful permit process? And I did look into the Palo Alto's permitting process, and I believe I checked in with their staff there, and what they are doing is a direct, because they're a utility, they're doing a direct install program. So they've hired a contractor and they've trained them on their permit process. And so that's how their permits are being processed by a third party. Is essentially the same direct installers also submitting the permits, and again, have been adequately trained in their permit process to make it a smoother transition.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Do you happen to know, Rebecca, have you heard any rumblings about whether or not the permitting department still needs to fill positions, or have they been filled, or is staffing still a concern?
Not that I'm aware of. I think, yeah, and I guess that's the question on the table is 3 days, you know, not enough time? Are we looking for same day? And again, I think for this agenda topic, it's not, we'd probably need to agendize this at another meeting to kind of thoroughly go through, but I appreciate, yes, the question, and maybe we can kind of dive in deeper.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to just point out one tie-in between that question and tonight's agenda item. If we remove that restriction that the 10 foot by 20 foot space, or the 9 foot by 17 foot space, whatever dimensions you want to call it, is reserved for automobiles only. If you remove that designation that it be reserved for automobiles only, it reduces the level of staff review needed inside people's private garages. And so it becomes a, workforce saver by not having to go in there and get out a measuring tape and see how people are utilizing their space. All right, so I think we've seen no more hands raised. I think we can entertain a motion.
Okay.
So
Try. I guess I would make a motion that, I guess, are we making a motion on what we're recommending to city council? Yeah.
yes,
So, I guess I could start with the motion would be to recommend to city council that there be no restrictions in the garage as to a requirement for car space, as long as it's an electrification project, and that an outdoor enclosure for an electrification project is allowed of any footprint, as long as it does not impose on the egress and does not exceed the height of the building, single level building. And that the noise ordinance be adjusted to 60 dB 24 hours.
And the noise level will be adjusted to
60 dB, regardless of the time of day.
all right, thank you. And is there a second?
Wait, I have an addition to that, if I
Oh,
may.
yeah, I believe the process is you are able to second and propose a friendly amendment.
Ah, okay. Then I will second and propose a friendly amendment.
Right.
I like all of those pieces that Commissioner McKenna outlined. They make sense to me. The two other pieces that I had down based on comments that we heard is in addition to the 60 decibels all the time, that we also recommend exploring a financial incentive for folks to install quieter equipment. That was Commissioner Cabot's idea. And then my second friendly amendment would be what Commissioner Headley recommended, is exploring the allowance of heat pump equipment in the front of the building, if that is, you know, if installing it in the back or the side is not permissible, that allowing it in the front, perhaps in an enclosure for aesthetics, would give homeowners additional flexibility. That's it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Evans, I think I missed the first friendly amendment. Could you just repeat that?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was adding on to the 60 decibels all the time. So getting rid of the 50 decibels. But then adding Commissioner Cabot's idea of having the city offer a financial incentive to install quieter equipment, however you might define that.
All right, so then we go back to Commissioner McKenna and ask if he accepts those friendly amendments, and then we'd have something to discuss.
I accept.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I'm just thinking about that, the way the the component that would be recommending the city explore an incentive for quieter equipment. You know, I would think that that's the kind of thing that can happen when the city gets around to it. But one thing I've learned to be careful of in working on policy with cities is to avoid, in order to make an adequate progress on the climate problem, we actually have to avoid our human nature of, as policy advisors, to want to sequence everything in a long line where the end thing can't be started until all the other things have been done. So I recommend in this case not to have exploring an incentive for quieter equipment slow down the adoption of all the other adjustments to the zoning ordinance. In other words, I recommend loosening the zoning ordinance to allow people to participate in preserving the climate. And then when the city gets around to it, have the city consider if it wants to explore offering incentives for quieter equipment.
I support that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and so are there other comments from commissioners? Yes, Vice Chair Headley.
Thank you, Chair Cabot. I'm appreciating these amendments here. And I really was appreciating Chair Cabot's comment around, should we be in the business of regulating at all what happens inside people's garages? And I believe the amendment that Commissioner McKenna proposed was the 10 by 20, that you could use it for electrification. And I kind of wonder if we should just strike out anything. And I'm a huge proponent of electrification, but I wonder if this would just be an opportunity to let people do what they want with their garages, including electrification, but not only for electrification.
All right, thank you. And Vice Chair Headley, I definitely agree with you. And I also feel this need that that we probably ought to consider how to craft the motion so that there is a fallback position in case other people in other bodies do see a role for the city in regulating what goes on in people's garages. It may not be my preference, but we're just the advising body. And Commissioner Evans.
I was going to say, Commissioner Headley, I mean, I agree with you. I think in an ideal world, that makes absolute sense. But yes, I worry about putting that in the motion in case that makes it harder for us to get what we think we need to do to move the electrification piece forward. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that could be harder to negotiate or maybe achieve. Though I agree with you in spirit. I don't know what other folks think.
If I may, through Chair Cabot, just a couple of points to consider. So one of the things that we often talk about is, how fast can we get a policy across the line? And so the on-site parking requirements, as I think you mentioned, Chair Cabot, are there to kind of ensure that we don't have overflow parking onto streets and kind of have conflicts and challenges within neighborhoods. And so there is some level of balance in trying to maintain parking spaces. And the reason we got down to 9 by 17 was that's kind of like the smallest space you could fit a compact car in. Whereas, there are larger vehicles. We don't know who the future homeowners are going to be. And so that's why we're preserving that other space kind of for the larger vehicles, and even some of the electric vehicles are a bit larger than my Toyota Prius. And so that's kind of the balance that we're trying to strike. I mean, if 9 by 17 is still not enough, then I think we just need like a little bit of help on like what would potentially be enough. But if we're kind of saying that we, are going to remove a required parking space potentially, or move in that direction, it could take us a little bit longer to get, because now we're trying to affect another policy, which is, off-street parking. And that's kind of a whole nother level of analysis and evaluation. And so I just want to kind of put that out there as you consider this.
And Commissioner McKenna.
Yeah, I appreciate all that. I guess my thinking in the motion was that we should really allow the homeowner to make that decision. If they want a smaller car, they can get a smaller car. If they want to be a one-car family and ride their bikes and walk, that should be their ability to, we should give them the freedom to make that decision if preserving the climate is more important to them than having a certain size vehicle in their garage or having 2 vehicles. So, but I'm certainly open to hearing other commissioners' thoughts and your further thoughts, but that was my thinking behind the motion.
Thank you. Yeah, so you've given me ideas about how, ways we might be able to word our motion. Perhaps if we had it worded the way Commissioner McKenna had first proposed, that I believe it was that her preference is that the specification for different uses of the 10-foot by 20-foot space be removed for electrification projects. Then that's our preference, and then our if that's not possible, we have a supporting a fallback to preserving a 9-foot by 17-foot or 9-foot by 16.5-foot space for car parking in the garage. But, so if that's what it takes to get things done in a speedy manner, is having, a fallback position that allows the city still to be prescribing different uses in different parts of a private indoor garage, then that may be what we have to go forward with, is expressing our preference and expressing a fallback recommendation. Commissioner Evans.
So to clarify, Commissioner Cabot, are you saying that the fallback would be exactly as this is on the slide that Ori is sharing his screen with here, that that first, after the first dash, it would say preserve 9 by 16.5 or 17 feet in the garage for parking, and then keep the second dash? Is that what you're saying?
One moment while I work my way through the logic. Yeah, I guess I was, let's see. Was at a point of wanting to recommend a smaller reservation for the car in both the top bullet, the top dash, and the bottom dash.
Yep, that's what makes sense to me, because we know that 9 by 18 still isn't enough flexibility. I mean,
Right.
ideally, we would have what Commissioner McKenna is recommending, but then the fallback at least needs to be viable to get the electrification equipment into the garage.
Right. And I think we're at a point where it may be that staff needs to bring their staff recommendation to the Planning Commission and the different EQC recommendation, that EQC may be at a different position than staff. And it, in my opinion, as a former city staffer at a different city, it's okay to have the staff having one recommendation and the commission having another, and let the next body see them both. The wagons do not have to be circled. So in this slide, yeah, I think I would recommend that for the fallback position of having numbers in the EQC's version of this slide, it might be 9 by 17 in the top bullet and 9 by 16.5 in the bottom bullet. And that might only allow things like that combined water heating and space heating system in homes that have a driveway parking space. All right, if there are no other commissioner comments, we can check for a read back of what staff has been able to record on the motion and see if we're ready for a vote.
Yeah, I need some help here.
I also have some notes if that's helpful, but maybe just as a clarification to the chair, do we need to check with Commissioner McKenna about incorporating those changes or restating?
Yeah,
that motion?
definitely.
Okay.
Right, definitely. I proposed it, I'm sorry, I proposed it as a friendly amendment to Commissioner McKenna's motion. And Commissioner McKenna, do you accept that amendment?
Yes, if I understand it to be that the EQC is going to recommend what we feel is best with a fallback position, and then giving staff the opportunity to have their recommendation as well. Is that the understanding?
That's mine, yes.
Yeah, then yes, that
And
sounds good.
just so I'm further clarified, so Chair Cabot, so but looking at the presentation for those first two bullet points, are you saying 9 by 17 would be the first one and then 9 by 16.5 for the second
Yeah.
point? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to try to restate the motion, which is specification for 10 by 20 required parking space to be removed for electrification equipment to be installed. If that's not possible, then the requirement would be 9 by 17. I can't see that bullet point here, but 9 by 17 in the garage for parking, and if there's room on the driveway or elsewhere on site, reserve 9 by 16.5 feet in the garage for parking. All right, so
Yes.
that's one part, okay. And then the second part is allow encroachment in side yard areas that don't impose on the egress space, emergency egress, or exceed above single floor height. Yes,
Yes.
can't see everybody. Okay. And then noise. Oh, go ahead.
Excuse me, I think there may have been something else on that one having to do with a dimension. For example, I imagine the planning commission would want to limit the total square feet of that encroachment of an enclosure to be something below a habitable room in today's market. So something below 20 square feet. 3 by 3 feet was 9, but it may make sense to have it, these enclosures allowed to be up to 12 square feet.
So is that kind of like do you accept that? I didn't catch that, but if it's not possible for that first part, then an enclosure space that's below 20 square feet? Or what I heard 12.
Is Chair Cabot suggesting that we have a preferred position and a fallback position on the enclosure as well?
On that one, I didn't think so. I think just stating a preferred position will probably be the right thing to do. And my thought was that I like that idea of leaving, having it be defined by maintaining the egress lane that's needed in the number of inches of egress lane. And then I think it needs a second dimension to constrain it, and that might be square feet of size. So we don't define the shape of the thing, but we define the size and how far out it impinges on egress.
Commissioner
Is
Cabot,
20 feet too big for that threshold?
It seems fairly large to me at this time. It seems like then it becomes a yard shed. It's storing the tools and things like that, which doesn't bother me, but maybe it'll make it a more valuable enclosure and make electrification easier. So perhaps it would make sense to suggest 20 square feet, which I guess that's 3 by 6.5.
Commissioner Cabot, can you repeat again why you think it's important to have an upper limit and to be prescriptive about that piece?
Yeah, so I didn't want somebody to have a 40-foot long side yard and put in a 3-foot wide water heater and build a 40-foot long new room on their house that was 3 feet by 40 feet and move a family in there.
Okay. But we're not, well, the enclosure though is, I see what you're saying. Okay. Wouldn't the
My
code for that though be really different? What you're adding onto your house that would be, a viable room is very different than an enclosure that would go around this type of equipment.
Yes, but I see all kinds of funny things in the real world in people's
Okay.
yards.
Okay. I trust you then. if you think it's important, and then it's more, we're gonna have an easier time getting this across, then I agree.
Yeah, I imagine the planning commission will be thinking about everything they see applicants trying to get all kinds of interesting little things done.
Okay. That makes sense. Thanks.
So do you want to
I
leave
think
it
I would
open
suggest
then?
15 feet.
Oh,
And
15
maybe-
square feet?
So,
Like,
so, yeah, so 15 feet is in the motion, Commissioner McKenna?
Yes,
less
All
than
right,
15?
thank you.
no greater than.
No greater than, okay.
Mhm. Okay, and then, see, I may have stopped you before you got to the noise section.
Yes, just so I make sure I've got this one right. So for enclosures and yard setback areas, maintain egress, emergency access pathways. And limit, limit enclosures to no greater than 15 square feet
And no higher than one level.
and no higher than the first floor. Okay. Everyone's good with that? All right, so the third one is noise. So noise adjust to 60 decibels regardless of time of day.
And this is for electrification projects.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I'm just thinking as well, because we didn't have that in the agenda title. So,
To mention it, noise.
we're talking about setback changes. Maybe encourage, suggest. I think it's a little tough because we want to make sure we. We can come back to that one. So let me think that through as I'm going through the other ones
Right.
a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then-
Well, also, as I look at it, we're only providing advice, and it's really advice to the next commission that hears this and the council. And then it's important that they agendize their items if they're going to be deciding about it.
Yeah,
It's on the
I
10th
understand.
slide. Noise.
right, yeah,
Okay.
but we didn't post the slides, and so I think that's where it becomes a bit of a transparency issue with how we agendize titles. And, you know, it's generally for the public to make sure that they understand like what you're making decisions on and that they've had a chance to provide feedback. That's why I'm kind of all of a sudden struggling with this one as we're going through it.
Yeah, so, all right, well, given that, that constraint, then maybe we don't have the opportunity to give advice on the noise levels at today's meeting.
Okay, I'm getting feedback from my colleagues, so it's helpful to get a little bit of consensus. So I think what I'm hearing is since it's part of the municipal code, that we can add it as a suggestion there. Okay. Advice, I mean. All right, so we'll keep it in there. I'll let you know if I get in trouble. So the fourth motion or first part of this motion was explore allowance of heat pump equipment in front of the building in an enclosure for additional flexibility. Yes.
I mean, I think I was the one that used the word explore, but now I'm actually, can we take that out? Can we just make our motion stronger and say we recommend the allowance of ability for people to use the front? And maybe it's easier to get it across if we have an if statement after the if the side and the rear of the home are not viable for that purpose.
Accept that.
Sounds
Yes. Mhm.
And then actually to go back to the one before that, Rebecca, did Commissioner Cabot, where did we fall on? Did you still want to recommend putting in a sentence that says, at a later time, explore financial incentives for quieter equipment?
Yeah, I think that would make sense as good advice.
Yeah. So,
Yes, I had that as a fifth one or fifth.
oh,
item.
okay, okay.
I did not forget, yeah, but.
Okay, never mind.
I think I can include it as part of the noise aspect.
Either way, I'm not sure that matters. Thank you.
Okay, so for this fourth one, so if side or rear yard areas are not viable for electrification equipment, allow heat pump equipment in the front yard space of the building with an enclosure for additional flexibility.
Yep. Thank you.
And then the city to offer financial incentive to install quieter equipment.
Actually, on that one, I would suggest explore, not, so I'm not suggesting the city do it. I'm suggesting the city explore it.
Yeah, with the addition of the phrase at a later time, sort of to make it clear that we're really not necessarily asking for that immediately, because we don't want to slow things down, but that we do think it would be a good idea in the future.
Okay, so city explore offering a financial incentive to install quieter equipment at a later time.
Thank you.
Great.
Or maybe the English would be at a later time, the city should explore offering an incentive
do that.
to install quieter equipment. So I'm not talking about replacing the equipment, but it's just for the people who like incentives.
Okay, so I've got a motion by McKenna, seconded by Evans, and I will call upon each commissioner to say yes, no, or abstain. And Commissioner Elkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Chair Cabot,
Yes.
Vice Chair Headley,
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenna,
Yes.
and Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. And so now we can move to the next item. And thank you, staff, for preparing all this. This item, I know it's been a lot of work and a lot of details going into all those dimensions. And plus I wrestling with it tonight, also a lot of math and geometry and a little bit of algebra. So thanks so much for digging into that and exploring ways to make it easier to pursue the climate action plan and climate safety.
I second the thanks.
So at this point, we bring ourselves to item D3, a review and discussion of the collaboration model or a collaboration model proposed by the Outreach and Engagement Subcommittee. And so I'm thinking they'll make a presentation, and if we have any clarifying questions, we'll ask them, then we'll open for public comment and then full discussion. So does the collaboration, or excuse me, the Outreach and Engagement Subcommittee have a presentation?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, and it's attached to the agenda. Oh, thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Ori.
And maybe if it's okay, I'll go through, this is just one slide. We wanted to keep it really simple. But Commissioner Elkins and Evans and I came together and put this together and reviewed it. And so this is more of an open discussion topic. I'm not going to read all of it, but I think there was a main thought behind a lot of this, which was we're all involved a lot in different community groups, and you heard from Pam earlier that a couple of us were, or a handful of us were at the meeting the other night on the environmental justice element, and we were talking about this and saying, how can we better represent a diverse set of perspectives in this meeting and represent all our districts, lots of different projects. And so that was our kind of basis for thinking about this. When we talk through it a little bit, the city council seems to have a pretty good liaison model where they have assignments in different pockets of activity going on, such as like the Safer Bay project. And I think Commissioner Taylor and Commissioner Combs are on that one. And I'm sure it kind of rotates as new commissioners come on. So we started thinking along those lines of, should we do something similar where the EQC members attend 1 or 2 group meetings for a list of identified nonprofits, county groups, schools, and potentially even other cities, because there's a lot to learn from other cities that are close by. So that's what we're thinking might be a good recommendation for the team to really consider. And then we can report out in these meetings on key programs, projects, issues, other things that we're hearing. And I know I find incredible value in going to like the CRC's meetings and representing what's happening in Belhaven as best I can, not being a resident there, but making sure that that is always kind of part of the consideration. For example, you know, the different commissioners are involved in different ways as well. So there's natural affinities to the list here. Like I work with Actera quite a bit. Diane was on for Menlo Spark. You know, John's involved with 350 Menlo. So there are natural affinities for some of these groups. And I think what we'd want to do is maybe come up with what's our list of organizations that we want to make sure we cover. Find out what kind of meetings they have and ways we can be involved. And then where appropriate, report back out. So Safer Bay is a good example where that might be a gap. I don't think any of us are probably regularly going to the those meetings, or some of the school district meetings as well. Could we have representation there to hear what the schools are talking about? But I do think, you know, we're regularly in like 350 Menlo, we're regularly in CRC and some other ones. So that's the thinking, is just a model of sort of representing what's out in the community. The things on the right here are the benefits of that, but I think these are pretty clear cut. You know, we'll be better advisors. You know, we'll just have our feelers out there in a more organized way, which is why I think the city council's model kind of exists. And that hopefully will provide stronger advice and more collaboration with these entities, because we often talk about a climate crisis and a climate emergency, but we don't want to have silos, whether accidentally or on purpose. So the goal is making sure that these organizations feel really connected to the work, and then promoting other projects as well. Just as a shout out to 350, you know, the next round of the Earth Day Festival is coming up, you know, and so at some point we should probably have a discussion about what's the EQC's role on that, or the city, and I know it's happening behind the scenes, but it could also, that's a big event, it's a big project. So I feel like that promotes a little bit more of that kind of collaboration when those big projects are happening. CRC does a lot in the Belhaven neighborhood, and you know, is that being reflected in these meetings and these discussions and things like that? So that's the idea. And then obviously the specific things that would happen would be to work with Chair Cabot and Vice Chair Headley to make sure that these are agenda sized, I said it right, put on the agenda in the right way and in a timely way. And then making sure that the work plan, you know, more closely reflects some of that input as well. So that was really it. It's a quick summary of what we're thinking about. I guess the step one is just to get everybody's feedback on that, the liaison model idea. And maybe given the amount of time, you know, we could always talk about an initial list of organizations and who's covering which organizations. We could do that in a future meeting, or we could vote offline. I'm not sure the procedure, but you know, really just wanted feedback on the idea. And sorry, and Angela or Leah, hopefully, please chime in.
All right, so now we can open it up to clarifying questions about what was just presented to us. Then we'll go to public comment, then we'll go to full discussion. Go ahead, Commissioner Evans.
Can I just add, Commissioner Schmidt did a great, he's really been leading us in this, but he did a great overview of this slide. Can I add one thing to what he said as far as in the spirit of the presentation? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. I was just going to add that, yeah, I mean, the other piece as we've been thinking about how to develop this is to balance staying in our lane as advisors. We recognize that we're not elected officials to the city of Menlo Park, and that we need to stay an advisory body and know that if we were to adopt this kind of model, that when we're attending these meetings, we cannot formally represent the EQC. We cannot speak in the way and say that we are formally representing the EQC. And so we've been careful not to use that word representation in this slide. And in fact, we would need to say that we're there as Menlo Park residents, not representing the EQC, but that this model was designed so that we are collecting information that can help inform our perspectives and advice on a variety of topics that we then provide to council. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you for that clarification. And any clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Okay, and seeing none, maybe we can call for public comment.
I'm sorry. I'm just looking at Jeff's Commissioner Smith's slides. At this time, if anyone would like to make public comment, please use the raised hand feature next to your name. We don't have any members of the public in the room anymore. So if you do that, I'll be able to unmute you. And it looks like we have one person, Pamela Jones. I have unmuted you, so you should be able to address the commission. Thank you.
Good evening again, and must be my lucky night because I have another thank you. I've learned so much about the electrification process and where the parts go, the water tanks, the chargers and all that kind of thing. And all I could think of is what a nightmare. Anyway, what I wanted to mention is I'm looking at the that you're refining, finalizing the initial list of organizations. And we also work in tandem with the Belhaven Community Development Fund. And so I know there's a lot of Belhaven groups that begin with Belhaven, but I just wanted to make sure that that they're acknowledged. But it sure is nice seeing Belhaven empowered up there. So thank you again.
All right, thank you.
I do have another speaker. If you could state your first and last name. I just have Ezio on my screen. You should be able to talk to the commission. Thank you.
Rebecca, it looks like they're still muted.
Yes, if you can hear us, Ezio, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now? Or
Yes, thank
Oh,
you.
okay, yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it just seems that every Zoom meeting has a different way to unmute. There, I'm blind, and I'm having to explore the screens. How do I unmute here? Okay, I found it. What I was mentioning is that since I'm blind, I'm sort of sensitive to when outreach occurs, that it be accessible to everyone. Materials can be accessible or they may not be accessible. This applies to all manner of things, whether they're websites, whether they're apps, and whether they're PDFs. PDFs can be accessible or they can be completely inaccessible. And so I would just ask that when materials are disseminated, let's make sure that they're accessible to everyone there. And so Acrobat, for example, can create an accessible PDF and create an inaccessible PDF. The default is inaccessible. And so one needs to know that. And PDFs can be very accessible, but I think there has to be the intent for them to be accessible. And thank you for listening to my concerns.
All right, thank you very much. And I learned something today too. The default is inaccessible, so we need to look for the ways to make these accessible. All right, any additional public comment?
This is the last call for public comment. I do not see any hands raised. I return the meeting back to you, Chair Cabot.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, and so Commissioner Evans.
I just wanted to quickly respond, if I may, to the comment that Pam Jones gave. Because as a member of the subcommittee, I wanted to say yes, absolutely. And although the way we've phrased this on this slide, it looks general in nature. We were talking about a bunch of different organizations, but in fact, what led to the thinking of this, or at least in my head and how I've been thinking about this, is that we originally when we started talking about this, it was about feeling siloed away from Belhaven and wanting to fix that to the extent that we can. Belhaven was at the center of those conversations, is how can we make more connections with the folks in District 1, especially as it relates to all sorts of issues, including, projected flooding from climate change and all the different organizations that are working on that to make sure that we are well informed about everything that's happening. So yes, Pam, that was very much part of the intention, whether those all of those Belhaven organizations are listed on this slide or not. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Commissioner Elkins.
I would just add on that on that subject that I wouldn't suggest that it was a complete list, and that we if we decide that we want to go ahead with this type of model, that we would put it on the agenda. It would be available for public comment. People could bring up organizations that we perhaps haven't even ever heard of. On the other hand, we can't have a list of 500 organizations because we can't cover all that, but we would at least be able to gain a larger list, and then we could make decisions from there on which ones we felt we could belong to and bring information from. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you. And are there any comments in the room? I can't see any hands raised. Then I have a. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Schmidt.
Just one data point. I think most of us know this, but just so it's sort of on the record, is so Violet and the CRC team does a great job of convening pretty regularly a subgroup that we have listed here. So Pam and Juanita's groups, it's got other, we saw a lot of the representation at the Thursday and Friday environmental justice element meeting, for example. So the good news, I think, in this list is it's very much as was stated, it's very much a preliminary list, and I think we want to keep it relatively open as we learn about new organizations that'll be worthwhile to be a part of. But it doesn't mean we have to go to every single, like for example, like Tara, Lauren, the exec director, I don't know if she has regular things that we could join. She does a lot of activities and events, but might not host a regular meeting that convenes people like CRC does. So I do think there's an element of kind of rehashing what are organizations that even do things that we can join and be a representative voice back into the EQC. That feels like a bit of a broader conversation.
Yeah, and so I have a question for the agenda tonight. You've shown us this slide, and it has the item agree on a liaison model, but are you suggesting we should try to agree on all the attributes we can and define a liaison model tonight about what it would be like and how we would want it to work? Or is there a second step that comes later when we do that?
I would recommend we do that when we have a little bit more time. We didn't want to take up a big chunk of time unless the group felt good about, hey, this sounds like a good idea. It sounds like a worthwhile object. We can go off and gather more information about all the nonprofits and come back with a more detailed proposal on that. But we didn't want to walk through a lot of that work unless everybody felt good about us going down this path. So maybe the first vote is, does everybody feel like it's good to proceed, and then come up with a model, talk to city staff about it, you know, because they may cover some of it too. But we didn't want to overinvest time until everybody felt good about the model.
I
or the
See,
idea.
thank you. Yeah, I do have a thought or concern to share, and that is that I'm just not fully clear on how this would balance out in terms of whether it's a process where we end up giving permission to do it, but I think we already have permission as individuals to go to all these meetings. And then I think we would already have permission in our report section to report back out things we're learning. So it seems like we've got the permissions to go out and do things you've mentioned, although several times the word representative has come up, which is the confusing word for me, because let's see, I picture the model you described. It's more like we're trying to semi-organize into being antennas that go out and collect information from groups that are working on related problems in the area, and we bring the information back to the EQC body to help keep informing the EQC body of more information that's helpful for decision making. So to me it sounds like one step is just formalizing the process of gathering information about what groups are interested in and what they want to accomplish, how it fits into EQC matters, et cetera, and bringing that information back to the full body. Does that include everything you want to do, or is that just a subset? And
Go ahead,
Commissioner Evans.
Yeah.
Oh, Commissioner Schmidt, did you want to respond first?
No, I was going to defer to you, and then maybe I'll add on to your.
Okay. And well, other commissioners step in if you disagree, but I think the word representation, some may have used that sort of casually as we've been discussing it. I've been trying to avoid using that word because I know formally that we cannot do that. That's not how we're chartered as an advisory body. But the intention, I think, was not representation, but rather, to your point, Commissioner Cabot, finding a way to formalize this information collecting process so that we are, sorry about the background noise, so that we're in touch with key organizations in different parts of our city to help us be better advisors in our role.
Right, thanks. And so then, do you envision that this would become a requirement of commissioners?
I can jump in there. So sorry, I know, Tom, it's hard to see in the room. I think I'd recommend that in my mind, at least, this is a coverage model similar to, I think I probably meant to convey that, like, the city council has representation. I agree with what Commissioner Evans was saying. I don't think we're representatives. I think what we're trying to do is make sure that we have a coverage model of information gathering that's a little more formal, and that we don't have gaps. Because I think we're all part of stuff, but by preference or default, or by just the way, I'm part of 350 just because that was how I started to get involved. It wasn't a purposeful decision necessarily, and that's pretty well covered by the EQC. So then, do I peel off of that and go represent something that's a little do I go off and cover something that's a little undercovered? So I think it's a formal coverage model to make sure that we're, who's talking to the county on a regular basis. And are there other groups in the county that we're not covering from an information gathering point of view? So that's the part I'd recommend we consider formally is, are our feelers out there in a purposeful way? And as commissioners, are we covering the right bases?
Mhm. All right, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, to me, it seems like it makes sense to have a discussion item at some point during each year where the matrix of organizations we've found that seem to be somewhat related to things that influence our decision making. If we and then our individual commissioners be arranged and people can see where would they like to cover. And I would think it's okay to still have gaps because we're at, our natural case is we've got lots of gaps. After doing that, we would probably have some gaps left over, but I just don't want to make it so that we overburden the commissioners with assignments. And so, I like the idea of providing a mapping of a way to look at this and for people to try to identify where do they want to put some effort in and what gaps are they willing to leave.
Totally fair.
And Commissioner Elkins.
So I just wanted to basically reiterate all that, but sort of more to the point of your question about whether it would be a requirement. I would suggest that this model would be like, it's highly suggested that from this list of organizations that we've created and any that an individual commissioner may suggest as well, like I belong to this blah, blah, blah group and you guys didn't mention that, but I want to continue to go to those meetings and bring information back from that. That we would highly suggest that each commissioner cover one or two, say, of these organizations and leave it at that. Yes.
All right, thank you.
In order to formalize this whole thing, rather than just as Commissioner Schmidt was saying, but just as a natural, and as you were saying as well, Chair Cabot, that just naturally, many of us do attend these meetings, but in order to create a more formal structure where everybody is highly encouraged to attend one or two outside meetings.
All right, thank you. And Vice Chair Headley.
Thank you. I have a question about whether or not this recommendation will would recommend do you anticipate wanting to change the roles and responsibilities that we all aligned around last fall? Because those are about to go to the city council to get updated. So part of me is wondering, do we want to have an update to our update so that we just get city council blessing once? Or did you not anticipate making any changes to the roles and responsibilities with this?
Yep, Commissioner Schmidt.
I think that's a great suggestion, and maybe we don't go into the detail of what the coverage model would be. I don't think we would have that mapped out yet. But if my recommendation is if there's an opportunity to allude to the idea that we're building a liaison model similar to how city council is doing it, so we can cover the perspectives of a wider area. I feel like we could keep it fairly general, and then if we get questions about what that looks like, we could potentially go into a lot of detail. I feel like that's a safe way to include it without giving another month and a half's worth of revisions. And hopefully what that would represent is it's a little bit of legacy beyond us, because as commissioners come on and off the EQC, some of them might not be as engaged in different community groups as some of us are, so if it's a relatively new commissioner who maybe isn't as well connected in the community, it would hopefully serve as a prompt for them to be part of a more formal network. That could be another way we could represent it to city council, I think.
And Vice Chair Headley.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if there was a motion around like a bullet point that we could add to our roles and responsibilities that would go to city council, if that would be something we'd want to do here tonight.
Uh, Um, so my thought is that what I've heard proposed so far is more of an organization and display of what we've already identified as opportunities to engage different groups as individuals who then don't represent the commission, but bring information back to the commission to be shared during reports, et cetera. I don't think it needs to go to the council as part of a work plan. And in my opinion, at this time, I wouldn't want to delay the work plan approval process to put something else in.
The
Because
work
it
plan
looks
got
like it's
approved last night, so
okay.
yay.
Yay. All right. Yeah, so my thought is, we can maybe in a chair's report, inform the council that the commission is trying to organize a liaison model where they map out how they share collecting it, engaging with different groups and collecting information they bring back to the full body, but have that just be done as part of a chair report to the council without needing to wait until our next update to the work plan in a year. So now, does this item need a vote by the full commission, or has the subcommittee heard enough to feel confident in proceeding with a direction?
I mean, my feeling is, this was preliminary to going in and diving in and getting because I think we come back with a larger presentation to say, this is Actera, this is what they do. This is the cadence of meetings, we'd want to do more like what Ori did, with a little bit more full blown. So as long as everybody feels like that's good work, worthwhile work, and when we want to pursue this model, I'd say vote or no vote, I feel like we've got enough to go back and do it. Nobody's really opposed to us kind of doing a model like this, it sounds like. Unless we need to vote on, yay or nay.
Right. So
I may, sorry, Chair Cabot. So I've reviewed this material and I again appreciate kind of where the EQC is as an advisory body and working with other groups as individuals. So again, thank you so much. I was wondering like if one thing might be more clear, maybe, because a liaison is really kind of like my role with you. It's just really participating and kind of helping, steward you through topics and agendas, and wonder if there's like another way to, and I don't know how to say it, but it's maybe like, participate or, follow these groups and information, and that would kind of really help solidify, we're not acting as an EQC or trying to liaison. It's more of like what I'm hearing is getting information so it can be shared. And I do like the legacy aspect too of understanding, resources that are available as other commissioners come on as well, which is helpful for me.
What's the council call it? The only reason I use liaison is I thought that's what the city council called it, but
Yeah, so-
although they have official roles on those organizations, so they would be a voting member of BOSCA or, so,
Appointed
and
liaison
we're
to
looking,
the EQC.
okay, I see.
right. So we're really looking at people to follow and participate in organizations and then inform us so that we are able to make more sensitive advice to council, based on understanding what organizations are trying to do.
I feel like that's cool. I think the only reason we used the word liaison was because it would have been familiar to the council and to staff, but I mean, a participation model is just as accurate a label, I think. Commissioner Elkins, I don't know if you agree. I don't want to speak for all three of us, but I'm not wedded to the word liaison.
Not at all, and I understand Rebecca's point about it making it sound like it's a working relationship between the two bodies, and that's not what we had in mind at all. So I can't, another better word isn't coming to mind, but the idea of being members or participants in other groups and just sharing information is that was the idea behind all this.
So a quick question, Chair Cabot, is, so if this is sort of just permission to come back with a more full-blown presentation, maybe by the next agenda meeting, or however we get it into an upcoming agenda, that feels like the next step. We were just asking if we wanted, if everybody felt it's okay for us to do that work, and then we come back with another agenda item, whether we need to vote on that or not. I was curious.
Yeah, my own opinion is it looks like you guys are into some worthy territory here, and it makes sense to explore it further because it might help, formalize a way to keep a more informed commission. So I support the direction you're headed. And it, seeing nods from the other commissioners, it sounds like people are interested in what you can put together, and it sounds like you're hearing the sensitivity that we definitely want to stay in our lane, but we do want to be better informed so that we're able to make sensitive advice. All right.
Yeah.
So,
This may, sorry, Chair Cabot, I was just gonna voice my thoughts on this and say that I fully agree with the concept. I think it's great. I think a lot of us do this already, but to add something that encourages commissioners to do this sort of work and gives them the resources of where they can find places to do that work, I think is a worthwhile effort.
right. Yep. Okay, so I think that brings us to our next agenda item, which I believe was looking at the subcommittee assignments. I've kind of lost my agenda. I'm not refinding it.
I'm sorry, Chair Cabot, I can help you out. The next
Yep,
item
so
is.
I found it. So review and assign commissioners to our current set of subcommittees. And there's an attachment. Is there a presentation?
There's no presentation, but this was a request just to check where commissioners are assigned and.
Right,
There's
and to
any-
allow, yeah, so I think this also allows commissioners to volunteer to join various subcommittees that we already have, and then allows the commission to vote on whether to approve that. And so we did hear from Commissioner Lynn that he had an interest in being in the climate adaptation subcommittee. And so on the current list, that brings that one up to 2 commissioners with room for more.
I think John has his hand up.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I couldn't see it. Commissioner McKenna.
Oh, thank you, Chair Cabot. Yeah, I was wanting to put my name as a contributor to the Transportation Decarbonization Subcommittee. Seeing that Commissioner Elkins was the only one on adaptation, I was going to put my name in for that as well. But if Commissioner Lynn would like to fill that role, because it says 2 people for that subcommittee. I don't know if 3's allowed, but If 3's allowed, I would like to do that as well, but if 2 is the maximum, then I'm happy to defer to Commissioner Lynn on that.
Well, that is interesting. Looking at that top row, I wonder why we have numbers other than up to 3.
Yeah, it can be 3.
Okay. Then I request to join that as well.
All right, and
I don't know why we have, I mean, the trees and committee says 2 people, but then there's 3 people on it, so.
We're in trouble.
Yeah,
it does
We're in
seem-
trouble.
It does seem like we ought to use the normal number up to 3 as our number.
Yeah, this is a very, the template from a few years ago from a subcommittee trying to engage folks. But we can definitely fix that. I'll put that in our notes.
All right, so we've had a couple of new volunteers into subcommittees and just want to give a chance in case anyone else wants to get in or out of a subcommittee. And I'm not seeing any, if there are any hands raised. And so that may be it. And then if Ms. Lucky, if you could read the reassignments or the new volunteers into the subcommittees for the commission to vote on approving.
Thank you, Chair Cabot. So Okay. Okay. Sorry, Chair Cabot. Maybe before we do that,
Oh, any
Wow.
public comment?
yeah, it would be good. So if any members of the public who are in attendance would like to make a public comment on this item, which is review and discuss or review and assign commissioners to current subcommittees, you can raise your hand at the bottom of the screen or use the hand feature next to your name. I'll be able to unmute you so you can speak up to 3 minutes. At this time, I do not see any hands raised. I return the meeting back to you, Chair Cabot. I think we do, I don't know if we had a motioner and a second on this one too. We need that as well.
All right, I recognize Vice Chair Headley.
Yeah, I move that we add Commissioner Lynn and Commissioner McKenna to the Climate Adaptation Subcommittee and Commissioner McKenna to the Transportation Decarbonization Committee.
And is there a second?
I second.
Okay, Kenna. All right, I will take your votes, yes, no, or abstain. Commissioner Elkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans, I don't see her on anymore, but
Yeah, the choker thing, they.
okay. Commissioner Evans is absent, so Chair Cabot,
Yes.
Vice Chair Headley,
Yes.
okay, Commissioner Lynn also left as well. So absent there on a vote. So Commissioner McKenna,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. So that brings us to our next agenda item, reports from staff and commissioners. At this time, are there reports from staff?
I've got it. Oh, Commissioner Elkins can wait. Raise your hand first.
Yes, Commissioner Elkins.
I can wait for staff if you want to do it in that order, but I do have something to report on when it's my turn.
Great, thank you.
So
And-
for the staff, I can report on our side and then Ori can chime in on Cat 5, which is eliminating fossil fuels from city operations. So we've been quite busy over the last month So with the zero emission landscaping equipment project and moving toward rules regarding landscaping equipment, gas powered landscaping equipment. So we do have a web page now up and running. The survey is also up and running. The web page is menlopark.gov/ZELE, not the Zelly for a bank transfer, 1L. And then for the survey, it is publicinput.com, again, /Zelly. And the Spanish version, you would just add an S to the end, so publicinput.com /ZELES for the Spanish version of survey. And tomorrow night, we're going to be hosting a webinar for landscapers and gardeners. We've sent out almost 300 letters, mailed 300 letters to landscapers and gardeners about the webinars, the survey, where to find information on our webpage. It was in English and Spanish, the letter, as well as attaching the flyer about discounted equipment to the letter, both in English and Spanish. And so we're hoping to have a pretty good turnout tomorrow night. And also from the information I have been collecting, other staff members of gardeners and landscapers that we see around town, we've also sent them letters. And I'm really happy to report that tomorrow night we have a panel for the landscapers and gardeners. So we'll have some of the stores participating, talking about how to access discounted equipment. And we're going to do kind of like an interview question and answer with a landscaping company. It's called EnviroViews, and it's Armando Vega. So he started transitioning his entire company. It's a second generation family business, got about 30 employees. He started out as a pilot with one crew and was able to really expand it. He said he's experienced savings. He was spending $1,600 a month for one crew on gas. And now for all 5 of his crew, he pays $275 a month in electricity cost. So it's a really huge savings. He did talk about the high upfront cost, and I know that's still kind of an issue that's ongoing. But again, this will be a really great opportunity. We're going to record it and then be able to post it on the website as well. So the information will be there for people to access if they can't make the meeting. There'll be a Spanish interpreter at the webinar as well. So people will be able to hear in their preferred language. And so that is, and then we're going to have a couple more webinars with landscapers and gardeners, and at least 3 webinars for the public to attend. It's more about the rules and kind of how to help your gardener and landscaper. And one of the things I'm riding my bike around town, they were kind of, I think, to kind of work with the customer and the landscaper about having access to outlets outdoors so that they can charge. But again, I think EnviroViews is going to go over, and a lot of the dealers, the stores are going to talk about how to have safe charging infrastructure and kind of what you need to do to make sure you get adequate charge. And again, don't cause any electrical problems while you're trying to charge. That's where we're at on that process. And then we're going to be doing some farmers markets, like I want to say mid-March to early April as well. So a lot of movement there. And then we, at a staff level, we're able to also meet with the City Council Climate Action Plan Subcommittee. So I think we're in a space now where we're going to be moving forward to a study session pretty soon. So that's really good news as well. So once we kind of wrap up the zero emission landscaping equipment ordinance, we'll be able to kind of hit the ground running on REACH Codes 2.0 as well, 15 buildings. And as Nancy mentioned, the Environmental Quality Commission work plan was approved by City Council last night. And just so everyone knows in this group, Chair Cabot wasn't able to present last night. We're moving his presentation to another meeting. It'll be coming soon. And that's all. I'll hand it off to Ori if he has any other updates, which I know he does. He's been working very hard.
Thank you. Yeah, so this has been an exciting week for Cap 5 and all of the internal staff that have been helping with this. So want to make sure that we give a big thank you to our facilities team who has been really helpful on a couple of different fronts. So actually earlier today, we participated in site walks for the Peninsula Clean Energy Solar and Battery Program for, I think it's for local municipalities and schools. And so we did tours for 10 sites. And so we'll be evaluating whether or not we can participate in that program to get solar and batteries for city facilities. And that's through a power purchase agreement. So it would be no upfront cost for the city. And then we would be locked into a reduced electricity rate based on what we generate. And that's exciting because Peninsula Clean Energy has really been hustling to get the interconnection applications in before the change to net energy metering 3.0. And so we should see a substantial increase in the value of the electricity generated on these sites if we're able to beat that deadline, which is I believe April 13th. So very exciting there. And again, a big thank you to our facilities team, Julio Martel and Craig Robinson, who spent the majority of this morning with the Peninsula Clean Energy team on that. We've also been working with Willdan on a water heater replacement program. And so that's another thank you to the facilities team for doing those site walks a few months ago. And then for everybody involved with kind of contracting. So we're moving through that process, and we should have that agreement signed by the end of the month. And that's an exciting program. It's replacing water heaters in 6 city facilities, including 2 that are leased out to the Little House Senior Center and the Rosner House, which are both community serving organizations. And the total value for the water heater replacements is going to be around $105,000. So that's all at no cost to the city, and those are being replaced by efficient heat pump water heaters. So we're eliminating natural gas at no cost to the city, which is big wins for CAP 5. And then we have a Tesla pilot update that's going to be coming to the commission shortly. So we're targeting the March Environmental Quality Commission meeting. So we'll be talking through some of the things that we've been learning about those vehicles and how many miles they're traveling and the charge and whatnot for those. 2 of the Teslas are currently down for an issue with the outfitting, but we'll be talking through that in more detail when we do the presentation for the Environmental Quality Commission. And again, we're looking at this program as a pilot to learn more about, how what things need to be thought of for outfitting electric vehicles, whereas the outfitting for the internal combustion vehicles, they've had hundreds of iterations on those, and so exciting to be learning. But learning sometimes means that you're learning things that you would like to do differently. So with that, I can maybe turn it back. I guess the only other thing is that we also through Peninsula Clean Energy, we submitted an application to be included in their fleet program. And so we're the first city to be working with them, and they'll be providing plans and drawings for our fleet EV charging plans. So that's a value of around $15,000 that is going to be provided by this program, and that'll give us the plans that we need to implement the EV charging plan that we brought before the commission and city council. So a lot of exciting things on CAP 5, and with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Cabot.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lucky and Mr. Paz. Sounds like you're both very busy, and also that you're finding ways to leverage program assistance provided by other folks, like through PCE, and that sounds like it's becoming very effective. So that's great to hear. Also you sound very busy. We may need to be discussing how might we help you staff up for the challenge of electrifying at the speed that can really preserve the climate. So, that looks like an ongoing issue with being busy and there being so much to do. also I'm glad to hear the study session on the Reach Codes 2.0 is in the process of being scheduled. I didn't hear if you have a date yet for that.
I should have an update for you by the next meeting. If I hear sooner, I'll definitely I'll let all of you know.
Thank you very much, because as you know, that's a item of vital importance if we're going to be accelerating towards that 90% of buildings electrified goal. So thanks so much for prioritizing that. And then we'll open it up for reports from commissioners, and I see Commissioner McKenna.
Yeah, I think Leah has a report. I just had a question for Ori. I may have misunderstood from the last meeting, but is there also a PG&E fleet program?
There
So
is,
both?
yes.
Okay.
We are, yes, yeah. So we've been in review. Actually, we're reviewing the contract terms for the PG&E fleet program. There's some easement requirements. If the program shows that we need a new transformer or an upgraded transformer, which we're anticipating we will, then there's easement requirements that would allow PG&E to access and maintain that. And so we've had our city attorney look at that so that as we get to that point in the process, we don't have any hiccups or delays later in the process. So we're hoping to submit that application by the end of this month as well. And then
So would the
we
idea
can,
to be do both programs?
yes, yeah, and it's actually it's a well-constructed program. The one that both of them are great programs, and the way that PCE, Peninsula Clean Energy, has set up their technical assistance program is that it's feeding into the other programs. So they're not only providing technical assistance, but cities can also get information about incentives that their plans would be eligible for, and then the preparation of plans themselves so they can then be used as part of the PG&E program or another program to construct the projects.
Thank you. Jeff has a question.
Jeff?
All right, Commissioner Schmidt.
Yeah, just a really a set of quick ones, and hopefully other commissioners who are involved will jump in on some of the outreach work that we're doing, more as private citizens, but some of us are participating in. Really exciting. Just our next session is coming up. Nancy will remember the dates, but she did a really great job of getting council member Dorr to be our host for a panel. And the topic is how to get your kids involved in climate change activities. So there's a panel with a teacher at MA, hopefully a couple of students. Actera is going to represent their program. They've got a climate ambassador, a youth climate ambassador program. So we'll be getting the publicity out pretty quickly, but that's really exciting because I think we had coffee with Councilwoman Dorr, and she's a really exciting addition to the city council. So happy that we got her, and it was all Vice Chair Headley that secured that. So that's kind of one. Two is I wanted to build on what Ham was saying about the environmental justice element, and the more I think, at least I personally dive into that, it feels like it's something that we might want to make a recurring theme of some of these meetings, because it's a very large part of what Belhaven is concerned about. It's going to overlap many city departments, as Rebecca knows and Ori knows. So I think the more we can kind of dive into that in the early stages and learn from it and understand what's on the minds of those residents, the better. It was a pretty passionate set of meetings. And I think the Spanish meetings were just as involved as the English meetings from what we were hearing. So that's just more of a recommendation as we have this coverage model and listen into what's on people's minds. The EJ element is a major part of that for District 1 in particular. The third thing really quickly is the trees. We had a really good meeting on the trees subcommittee. I think we'll be figuring out how to pull some of us in for the Arbor Day event, the Mayor's Tree Planting event. So stay tuned for a few more details, but I think we made really good progress in a meeting today on that topic. And then just wanted to express appreciation to Rebecca and Jillian, the city arborists, because trees have come up a lot lately in a lot of different contexts. Even at the environmental justice meeting, it came up a lot. So this year, I think the plan is, please correct me if I'm wrong. The plan is to do a tree inventory, which is the first part of a master plan, and to do some plantings in Belhaven, working out the details of what that really looks like, and then getting an urban forest master plan in the capital planning process that the city has. So it's sort of a two-phase process. And that's really important, because I think that people want trees in the ground now, but they want the continuity of, trees are regularly going to get the canopy up to a certain level, particularly in Belhaven, where the health impacts are greater than across 101. So was really happy to see like that and the progress that the tree subcommittee's been making there. And then the last thing I'll say is one thing, I'll bring more information back to this group. I attended a meeting this morning for a group called Community Trust, and it's a slightly informal group that gets together every other month. It's school leaders in most of the Menlo Park districts, so City, Sequoia, a lot of the principals, a lot of the superintendents, the police chiefs, I think the mayor is part of that group from her Safe City Streets days, not from the city council. But it made me realize this morning that it's a great way maybe for the EQC to build some relationships with the school districts in a more formal way and figure out what they're working on from a sustainability point of view. In my day job, I realized they're a little all over the place, the school districts are, so we may be able to liaise a little bit better with them. And Community Trust might be, maybe we host a meeting here at City Hall, because they rotate the hosting. Today we were at the Atherton Police Department, and both the chiefs were there talking about their safety resource officers and stuff and how they liaise with the school. So it just made me realize that we may have an opportunity to build more support and more relationships with the schools through a meeting like that. So I'll go back and see if that's an option to maybe host a meeting here and work with Rebecca and team to see if that's even a good idea, but just, feels like a little bit of a gap in some of the work we're thinking about is outreach to schools. Anyway, that's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you. And are there other reports from commissioners? And Vice Chair Headley.
Thank you. I wanted to give some dates to some of the items that Commissioner Schmidt just mentioned in case you're wanting to attend. So the Kids and Climate panel is going to be on March 1st or 8th. We hope to nail down the date this week. The mayor's tree planting is on March 10th at 10 a.m. The Arbor Day tree planting and maybe some additional festivities, that's kind of TBD. That'll be on April 29th in the morning. And then the We Love Earth Festival is coming up for April 22nd.
All right, thank you very much. And Commissioner Elkins.
Yes, well, so I was asked to report a little bit on the environmental justice element. And so I attended the meeting last week, as did Commissioner Headley and Commissioner Schmidt. And so they can certainly add anything here that they want to. But basically, I just wanted to give an overview of what that element is and suggest, based on my attendance at that meeting and my attempts to read through some documents, particularly the draft environmental justice element that has been prepared by the city's consultants. I was going to suggest that we might want to receive a formal presentation from the consultants, or possibly I could create something. But it is, as I think Commissioner Schmidt alluded to, very complex and wide-ranging. And in fact, apparently under the state guidelines, the environmental justice element can either be a separate element, or it can just be sort of an overarching integral concept that is considered when in considering all the other elements in a general plan. And that's up to a city to determine whether they want to just put a environmental justice aspect into every single other element, or whether they want to consolidate it all into one separate element. And what that appears to be what Menlo Park is doing, is creating a separate element. However, it touches on many of the other elements, particularly the housing element, but also many aspects of the climate action plan, such as electrification of vehicle electrification, building electrification, climate resiliency, sea level rise. All these things are aspects of environmental justice. And as Commissioner Schmidt alluded to, these are all things that are of great concern to the Belhaven community, which has been identified as an underserved community. Part of what you need to do, and when you first create an environmental justice element, is to identify the communities within your city that are underserved. Although the state law uses the word disadvantaged, but we learned on Thursday night that we are preferring the word underserved, and so I'm going to use that word. Belhaven has been identified as underserved community in our city. And then, and of course, there's other underserved communities, but none of them are in Menlo Park. So everything should relate to Belhaven. Belhaven community is very passionate, as Jeff said. Frustrated would be another word that I would use before passionate. Passionately frustrated. There was a lot of expression of that at the meeting, that they've heard, that the community has heard a lot about what we're going to do to help them, but they want to know, they want it to be done at this point. Anyway, as I mentioned, this element touches on a lot of environmental issues, obviously, since it's called environmental justice, but environmental justice also encompasses things like housing and access to food, access to transportation that are not necessarily in the purview of the Environmental Quality Commission. So I think it would be interesting to see if the consultants could break down just sort of those things like air pollution and sea level rise, et cetera, that pertain more to our mandate, and give us a little overview of what the element is looking like. At this point, they're still in the draft phase. They took all this feedback from the various meetings, and then they're going to rewrite the element, and then I think present it again for more feedback. So we're still in the draft phase, so we don't necessarily need anything immediately. But on the other hand, perhaps this is a good time to find out more about these actions that are being proposed in those categories that are in our purview, so that we could provide our own feedback before they come up with a final plan.
Yep, that sounds like a great recommendation, that we agendize an item to hear a report on the proposal for the draft environmental justice approach, and that we provide our advice, because I would think that there's a big difference between making it its own standalone element versus having an environmental justice attention be spread among all activities as a a part of each activity. So it seems like a good thing for us to agendize. And so Rebecca, if you're able to incorporate that into our next agenda planning session for us to be able to hear as soon as possible so that our advice will be timely, that would be a good thing for us, I think. And so Commissioner Schmidt.
One just small recommendation to build on that and build on what Commissioner Elkins was saying is in the CRC meeting a couple of days before where they were prepping to provide feedback. One thing really stood out to me, which I think we ought to double down on as well, which is there's a primer, a kind of an explanation of what this is and how it's part of the general plan. And, you know, that was what was really covered in these first meetings. But then, as I understand it, this all filters down into real programs, and then it filters into budgets and it filters into action plans. And so I think if we can make the request that we want to see as much as possible at the programmatic level, that's where I think our recommendations will have a lot of meat at this stage. You know, the primer and the basics of what an EJ element is and all that, maybe we could read ahead of time, but I think for best use of time, I would really want to dive into the, you know, what are the top 20 programs being proposed, kind of a thing.
Sounds like good advice. Yes, Commissioner McKenna.
I would make a suggestion, if this is possible, during that presentation on the environmental justice element, it would be wonderful if we could have someone from Belhaven present at that same time so that we can really understand their thoughts on the environmental justice element. I think it would be good to hear their voice.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, I wonder if that can be agendized as, you know, co-presenters or however the staff is able to arrange that.
Yeah, we can talk internally about how to go about that. And
That would be,
yeah.
Yeah, I know that the consultants have partnered a lot with CRC in putting these meetings together, and so that would be the natural place to go for a community viewpoint, I think.
Right, and Commissioner McKenna.
Is this an appropriate time for me to make a couple comments?
Yes, please.
Okay, I just wanted to add on to what Commissioner Headley mentioned about our Earth Day Festival. We're calling it Love Our Earth Festival. It'll be on Earth Day, April 22nd, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. It will be held at Menlo Atherton High School. And we're very excited about this event. It's going to be a joint effort between Menlo Park, Atherton, Palo Alto, East Palo Alto, unincorporated Redwood City, North Fair Oaks, Peninsula Clean Energy is participating. So we have a wonderful list of collaborators, and we have some really fun ideas to make it kid-friendly, to make it very inclusive, very welcoming. We are going to have a nice list of speakers. We're going to have EVs and mobility displays. We're going to talk about building electrification and have vendors that will be able to show their wares. We'll have experts to answer questions on building electrification, and great food. Someone from Actera who did our last year's event. The food was a big hit last year, and the same group is going to lead that. We may even have a movie thrown into the event as well, or maybe some short films, environmental related type films. So it's coming together. It's still in the planning stages, but as I said, we're very excited about it.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I wanted.
that does sound like a really big event, and it's great to see that coming together with multiple cities cooperating in there. And I heard one of the items they might be bringing is the new battery powered electric induction range. It's got an oven and a cooktop with its own 4 kilowatt-hour battery that'll work even during power outages. And it just plugs into a 120-volt regular outlet, the one that's already behind your gas stove. So, it's going to be neat to be seeing these things that are making electrification easier. But I'll let you go on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that vendor is confirmed, so they will be there. And then is this an appropriate time to make suggestions or share ideas as well, as opposed to just a report on something?
It's a bit of a gray area.
Okay.
I say go ahead.
Okay, I'll make it very brief. My thought, my suggestion, my idea is that our city website has some great resources for building electrification. It's a little hard to navigate to that section. I believe we're in a climate emergency, and I think it would be awesome if the city showed front facing on the website, first page. We have a climate action plan. Here it is. This is a direct link to it so that you can understand the situation a little better and understand what the city's goals are. And also either next to that or linked to that would be all of the incredible resources that the staff has put together for building electrification. I think it would be helpful if that was more prominent on our website. And just making sure that all the rebates are completely current. And we have a lot of resources, as I mentioned, and one resource that I would suggest we add is Chair Cabot did an building electrification seminar recently for a community collaboration session. I don't know if that's a link in the resources, but if it's not, I would suggest that would be an awesome resource for people to be able to go to at the click of a mouse. So those are my thoughts on that.
Great suggestion. Thanks.
Thanks. And other reports from commissioners? All right. Well, seeing none, that brings us, I believe, to the end of the agenda. I can't see the agenda, but if that makes it, then we can adjourn. Is that our agenda position, Rebecca?
Yes.
All right. All right. Well, thank you all for hanging in there and accomplishing so much in the past month and being able to report on it. Seems like we're all finding ways to accelerate, and more help is needed. And so keep up that good work, and we'll see if we can bring more folks into the fold with us. Thank you all, and good night. That concludes our February 15th EQC meeting.
Great. Good night.
Right.